Well, welcome back to the Blazer Victory Podcast. This is your co-host, John Duncan, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Steve Irvine. Episode number 35 as we get you guys ready for the UAB football scrimmage spring game coming up this Saturday at 1 o'clock. Steve, you excited to see the Blazers and the old gray lady for one more time, buddy?
Man, yeah, that's gonna be, yeah, it's. I mean, I think everybody should be. I think for both reasons. One, to be able to kind of say goodbye to a place that some people want to say goodbye to for a long time, and but it's been a special place for for a lot of people, but for certainly for UAB program, and I mean, yeah, ready to get out of it, and getting that beautiful new home. But it will be nice to be there one last time. And it's a shame that last year couldn't do that. Last year,
I know.
scheduled, have a scheduled one.
Right.
Obviously there was a last game at Legion Field, but we had no idea it was gonna be. But yeah, it'd be nice to get out there one more time. Hopefully there'll be a lot of former players out there to um, kind of help say goodbye, and it'll be a nice day.
Yes, definitely. And again, the tickets, they're free. They're complimentary thanks to the sponsoring Pepsi for the spring game. So, Blazer fans, make sure to get out at 1 o'clock Saturday and see the green and gold at the Old Gray Lady one last time. Now, before we start talking more about getting you guys ready for the spring game, we do have some news to go ahead and break. Well, not break, but it's just to go ahead and share with you guys on the podcast. But Andy Kennedy in basketball was actually able to pick up two more transfers from the transfer portal. From South Alabama, we get guard Tyreek Locure, who averaged 13.5 points per game. I mean, just a really good guard for South Alabama, and he made 55 three-pointers last year. So, I mean, that's an improvement from what we saw last year out of some of our guys. So great to get him. But also, we got a grad transfer from South Florida, Justin Brown, 6'6", 210. He actually played with Jamal Johnson, who, we announced our last episode that is coming, from Auburn to UAB. But yeah, Justin Brown played with Jamal at Spain Park High School. So great to get these two guys into the South Side.
Yeah, it's going to be, and you would think, or you would say, on paper, it might be the oldest team in the country, but then you look around and everybody's doing this with with the
Yes.
way the rules have changed.
Right.
I think everybody's going to have experience, but this is, certainly Andy Kennedy's building a, type of team that, is going to be able to win a lot of games next year on, it certainly looks like on paper. And I think both these guys fit right in. I talked to a friend of mine at South Florida about Justin Brown, and he had a lot of really good things to say about him. Said that he's certainly, I think he'll be a really good player at UAB, and said he's a good shooter, a bit streaky at times. He said, but Moore is just good is a good shooter for most of the time, and so I think he's going to be good. And I'm really excited to see Locura. I mean, he seemed just watching his highlights from both high school and at South Alabama. And,
Right.
he appears to be a really dynamic guy, and he's he's going to cause a lot of trouble with his defense, kind of like with him and Quan Jackson in the
Oh,
back
yeah.
court. There's going to be times where teams are going to struggle to get the ball up court. If
Right.
I'm really looking forward to seeing both those guys and just seeing this whole group. And there's still a couple more spots, I think. It's hard to tell, but it's going to be fun, and I hope we'll be able to open up Bartow Arena next year and fill that place instead of
Yes.
without the restrictions. Hopefully that's where we'll be, as a society, and it'll be fun.
Yes, definitely. And, would not surprise, as you just mentioned, there might be a couple spots left on the roster. It would not surprise me if we hear maybe another one or another two transfer announcements, but we'll just have to wait and see. But definitely looking forward, just continue looking forward to see what Andy Kennedy continues to build with the UAB basketball program. So definitely exciting things to come on the hardwood. Now, football, we have some news too. Friday, well, you guys are probably listening to this on Friday, but UAB is hosting their UAB Pro Day for football. So a lot of NFL scouts will get to come out to check out some of our guys. Steve, I know you said unfortunately you won't be able to make it out, but I got to think that our guys are going to impress some of those scouts on Friday.
Oh, I think absolutely. I mean, I think you put Jordan Smith in that situation, and he's
Yeah.
going to open a lot of eyes. Certainly Austin Watkins, Myron Mitchell. I mean, these guys have been working hard. Spencer Brown. These guys have been working hard to get ready for this, and this is their chance. And Bronte Harris tweeted out something today that I saw that
Yes.
said something along the lines of this is tomorrow's going to be a day where I get to help my
It's his
family or
chance.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if he gets in there and does well, and I mean, these guys are trying to find a spot in the draft, and so I mean, it's exciting. And Coach Clark was saying earlier this week that he believes that there'll be representatives from every NFL team there, and
Wow.
yeah, and that's big. I mean, and the pro days the last few years. Well, some of the years have, there's been, a lot, most or a lot of the teams represented, but I'm not sure they've ever had one where everybody's there. And so if that happens, that's huge. And so, yeah, it'll be a big day. It'll be a fun day for those guys. Really fortunate to have the pavilion in case there is some, wet weather or whatever it may be.
Yes.
So, that's just another way that thing pays for itself or pays its dividends, and so it'll be interesting and be fun to watch, see how those guys test.
Yes, and lastly, some scheduling news for UAB football was just announced this morning, Thursday morning, that UAB did add a game on September 2nd of 2027 against Florida A&M University in Birmingham. So FAMU did come out this morning and officially announced that they will be playing UAB in Birmingham in 2027. So I think that's just how things are, Steve. We're scheduling games out 10, 20, 30 years in advance.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of it's been done like that for a long time.
Yeah.
It's a little different to have a team from the MEAC or SWAC or whatever they're going to be now.
Right.
That far out on your schedule, but hey, that's a traditionally they have some pretty good programs traditionally, and
Oh yeah.
so it'd be that'll be fun. It's a long way off. I hope I'm still on this earth in 2027.
Well, I hope you are.
no guarantees, but it'll be I mean it'll be fun.
Going back to that real quick about scheduling games so far out in advance, you would think, Steve, that we would kind of learn from the whole weird COVID 2020 year where we saw teams, UAB, scheduling Louisiana Lafayette on the fly before the season started, and even during the season, we saw BYU and Coastal Carolina schedule a game like in a week. So I don't know. I kind of wish it would be more like that instead of scheduling so far out in advance. I get why they do it, but just something I thought about.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I like the traditional way of doing it in advance. I mean, I think that's now sometimes obviously you get burned. I mean, you get burned in a sense where you say BYU, for example. I mean, say you do several years ago you put BYU in your schedule for 2018 or 19, whatever the year. They had a really bad year a few years ago, and
Yeah.
and so you put them on your schedule and think, okay, well, this is going to be like our marquee game, and show people in non-conference that we're going to play somebody,
Right.
and then you get to that season and it's their worst season ever, and
Yeah.
so that hurts, that hurts a little bit, or conversely, you put Liberty on your schedule, and you
Right.
think like, okay, well, there's a win. We're gonna put a win here, and then Hugh Freeze shows up on campus, and you're like, oh my goodness, what in the world do we? All of a sudden we got a really tough game, and and hey, I mean, there were some. I guarantee there's some people that put UAB on the schedule, thinking like, okay, well, they're just starting back in in this return thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put them on a schedule in 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever, and thinking like, hey, there's a win.
Right.
And, you get a really good football team coming to play you. So, yeah, in a sense, doing it out like that is, it's a gamble. But it also creates some excitement with your fan base to kind of look ahead, and so I kind of like that. I kind of like the traditional, even though it can bite you.
Right. And Steve, I'm just waiting for the day that UAB announces 10, 15 years from now that we'll be going to South Bend to play Notre Dame. Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be fun. I don't know Bill Clark would necessarily want that,
No.
but no, I mean, I would, I'd love to see any of those traditional. I mean, at
Yes.
some point. I mean, I think that, I know as a coach, a lot of times you really
Recruiting and
concentrate.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you concentrate on getting in the communities where you recruit, and
Right.
obviously you're not going to recruit Indiana,
No.
maybe ever, unless it just doesn't, unless you get a transfer from Indiana,
Right.
which UAB's got a couple, and um,
Yes.
but yeah, you kind of try to look in areas that you recruit a lot, and that makes a lot of sense to me. That makes a lot of sense because it's just a way to advertise. But every now and again, it's kind of nice to go somewhere and do something different. And that, yeah, I'd be in for that. I mean, no doubt.
Yes. Well, guys, let's go ahead and get you guys ready for the spring game this Saturday. In the last episode, we kind of recap what happened in the first scrimmage a couple weeks ago. Now UAB did hold another scrimmage number 2 last week, and we'll kind of talk about what UAB officially released happened in that scrimmage. But mainly, Steve's just going to help us get ready to see who to watch for in this spring game Saturday. No, they did come out and say that they'll have, a regular. The first 2 quarters of the game will be just like a normal game, but the third and fourth quarter, the last 2 quarters will be a running clock throughout the whole last 2 quarters. So let's just go ahead, Steve, and talk about what happened on the second scrimmage. Now, overall, Coach Clark did say that he felt that the defense, kind of won the scrimmage. The offense was able to move the ball a good bit, but the defense just, had a great scrimmage game. In particular, Kelly Sanders, in the statement from UAB, just said that he was in the backfield the whole game. He looked unblockable, had multiple sacks and tackle for losses. And also a couple other guys mentioned that stood out on the defensive side of the ball was the LSU transfer Justin Thomas, West Virginia transfer Charlie Benton, and Dajon Turner and Xavier Lanier both had interceptions for the defense. Steve, were you able, for the first scrimmage that you went to, were you able to get a good eye on how Kelly Sanders was looking?
Oh, you couldn't miss him. I mean, yeah, I mean, he was the same in the first scrimmage when I saw him. And I mean, he jumps out. And the thing about Kelly Sanders, he came in, highly regarded. He was a junior college guy. I think he had started at Washington State, I believe, is where he was at first. But he's a guy they expected this out of. So this isn't necessarily a surprise. And really, I think a lot of last year that not getting on the field as much, even though he got some playing time, and he got some significant playing time, but he got caught in a numbers situation. But the one thing that I loved about Kelly Sanders last year is you go back and watch some of the tape, he was running down and making plays on kickoff, and doing some special team stuff where he jumped out at you, and a guy with that kind of with that size, that was impressive to me, and I knew when I saw that, I just kind of started thinking, hey, this kid might be special when he gets his chance, and he's going to get that chance this year. So I think that, again, I don't think anybody on that coaching staff is surprised that he's made plays this spring for sure, or any of his teammates. I mean, I think that they, kind of saw this coming, and so I think with him and Justin Thomas, they certainly saw this coming too because he got Justin Thomas got to practice with him last year, and from accounts I heard was pretty unblockable then. So I think both those guys are certainly this is no this the success that they've had this spring is no surprise.
Definitely. And also, the West Virginia transfer, Charlie Benton, looking forward to seeing what he can do too.
Yeah, I hear that he's very fast. I think in a lot of ways he's a lot like Chris Mole is, as far as the speed. The guy's just going to run around sideline to sideline, make plays. I think he's a little bigger maybe than Chris Mole, a little thicker. But so I think he's going to be, play that same sort of, role as Chris Mole did when he was playing inside. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to, seeing him, on Saturday. Hopefully he's ready to go. That's the thing we don't know right now.
Yeah.
Who's going to be held out? And you in the spring, for a spring game, you hold them out for small reasons. I mean, it doesn't, you don't have to be, sometimes you hold them out, with an injury that you would play with in the regular season. So,
right.
Hopefully, hopefully he's ready to go because I really want to see, him play and, a lot of guys, but there'll be some held out certainly, and that's okay, because it's, you don't make your money winning the spring game. That's for sure.
Right. And, I'm knocking on wood right now and crossing my fingers, but last I've heard, or that we've heard, is we haven't had any significant injuries out of the spring so far. And man, if we can just make it through this spring game Saturday and end spring on a good note, then I'm sure Clark will like that a lot.
Oh yeah, that's what it's all about right now. It's Saturday's about coming out and showing showing the fans what you have a little bit and getting one last chance in the spring to kind of run around and officially play. I guess not officially in win-loss record, but just get out there and play in front of some fans and kind of have a fun day. But it's what's the first objective easily is that come out of that thing with no injuries and get ready for that off for the summer conditioning and keep that going.
Right. And for the fans, like you just said, this is really our only time to see them before the season starts in September against Jacksonville State. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing these transfers, as you just mentioned, Justin Thomas and Charlie Benton. But also, I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing, Chris Moe out there at the safety position again and just seeing how, he reacts to the ball and just seeing how he reacts to things. So hopefully, we'll be able to see most of these guys. There's no need to get concerned if you see a guy not playing, he doesn't have his pads on, or he's got a boot on. There's no need to freak out that, like Steve just mentioned, coaches will hold them out just for the smallest things in the spring game, because really, what's the point of a spring game, other than just showing for the fans and trying to get, trying to see those backups, get some playing time on the field in front of people too. So right. Anything else on the defensive side of the ball? We mentioned Dajon Turner and Xavier Lanier did a couple interceptions in scrimmage too. Anything else that you remember standing out in the scrimmages the scrimmage that you saw or practice you saw, Steve, in regards to the DBs or anything?
Well, I think what stands out is just how many players they have. How many guys they have that show up. I think you see guys like Keandre Swoops. This guy is running around making play after play, right. and he's probably not going to be a starter. We're in a lot of teams in this conference. He would be a for sure starter. And he may start for you, but there's certainly no guarantee. So I think that's what really jumped out at me when I was watching them. Just everywhere, everywhere that on the field, there's quality depth where there's not a whole lot of drop off, and there's guys just running around making plays and competing.
Right.
And I do think, and this is with Coach Clark, this is a big thing for him, is I do think once fall camp starts on that defense, there's going to be some fluid depth charts there. Now, I
Yeah.
mean, there's going to be some guys, that Dijon Turner, a handful of guys that are probably cemented into their position. But I mean, you just look at safety for example. I mean, you have four starters, and I'm including Chris Mole in that because he started at linebacker. But you have four guys who you would consider a returning starter. In Bowler, Grayson Cash, Damon Miller, and Mole. I mean, those are four guys. So that means for sure there's going to be at least two guys who are a returning starter that are not going to have a starting job. So I think that's what you're looking at with this with this group. There's so many guys that are just still fighting for a position. I mean, up front it's like that. I mean, you've got guys that I mean, Tony Fair I expect to be a starter, but there's no guarantee. Somebody might pass him up. And so I think that's what's great about this group is it's so, like I say, it's going to be such a fluid depth chart, and really the depth chart in one sense is really not going to matter that much because all those guys are going to play, and all those guys are going to play important roles, and so. But I think we'll see that on Saturday. I expect to see that on Saturday with just a lot of different guys making plays, and it's going to be the sort of same thing that kind of the way Bill Clark builds his defense is. You see some of these other teams in the conference that have, their two linebackers have, 115 and 112 tackles, and the next guy might have, 80 or 70 or 60 or 50, and that's not the way, David Reeves and Bill Clark build a defense. I mean, they're not going to have guys that run around and have 110 tackles and while the next guy doesn't. I mean, it's going to be there's a lot of competition to make a tackle on this team, and
Right.
and so that's good. I mean, that's the way it should be. But I think you'll see that on Saturday.
Yes, and very quickly going back to the cornerback position, I'm excited about hopefully seeing Starling Thomas. I don't know if we'll see him because I know they're still taking it easy on him.
Right.
Coming back from his injury, but also to see Mac McWilliams again too, out there as a redshirt freshman. Excited to see him. And we just mentioned Xavier Lanier, and T.D. Marshall, just everywhere, just depth on that cornerback position. And you mentioned Keandre Swoops and C.D. Daniels. So just excited.
And Troy Young, Troy Young,
that's right.
Guy that we haven't seen on the field,
right?
But he was at Arizona, and he's has a potential to be a big time guy. So we get a chance to see him, and which is exciting. And so just a lot of guys, a lot of guys. I mean, I'm as excited about seeing, like you mentioned, a guy like Mac McWilliams. I mean, I'm as excited to see him, probably more excited to see him than I am T.D. Marshall because I know T.D. Marshall. I know what he can do.
Right.
And that's what's going to be neat to me is seeing some of these guys that we haven't seen as much. Deshaun Oliver. I mean, I'm really excited to see how he performs on Saturday.
Yes.
And that's what excites me, seeing what some of these other guys can do because there's guys that that we know. And we know what they can do and what they will do.
Right.
But it's the depth and the guys that that you hadn't seen as much that might end up being a star. Like I mentioned Troy Young again. I mean, he might start. Yeah. So it'll be neat to see him, Saturday and see what he can do. And I'm saying all these names, just assuming they're going to be out there, but
I was going to say,
who knows who's banged up and who's not going to be out there. But if the names we say, if they're out there, I'm excited about it.
Yes, definitely. Well, anything else on the defensive side? Oh, on the defensive line, Steve, do you have anybody for our listeners to look out for? The one of the guys that not that we're used to seeing, but maybe somebody on that second team or third team to look for.
Well, I mean, I think the one guy that kind of gets, sort of has been overlooked a little bit is Macario Stanley. I think that, he's a guy that, he's shown flashes every year. And I mean, there were some times last year I thought he made some big plays. I mean, there's been moments that he's had. And I think he might be a guy that's ready to be more than just a moment guy, a guy that will come in and, makes a play for him. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. I'm looking forward, if he's healthy, and I hope he is, I'm looking forward to see Isaiah Forte, because he was a guy that really, they really expected to come right in and, out of junior college, this kid out of Montgomery that they signed out of high school, but he didn't qualify. So he went to Northeast Mississippi. They expected him to come right in and fight for time. And I think he was going to, and he just got banged up or just wasn't quite healthy, enough during the year. And so I'm looking forward to seeing him. Hopefully he's out there and seeing him, because I think he's going to has a chance to be a pretty special player. Kevin Penn's the same thing. I think Kevin Penn, a kid from the Austin High in Decatur. I mean, I think that he's shown stuff since the day he walked on campus, but it's just so hard to get it's hard to get on the field with these guys. I mean, they've been so deep up front with really good players. So guys like that, I mean, I think will be fun to watch on Saturday.
Right, definitely. And also, what was from Thompson? What was his name? Defensive lineman.
Montage Cook.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's another guy. I mean, he's a guy that he dressed in the Rice game, and I think he got on the field a little bit. Tylan Jones was another guy that in that Rice game or late in the year got on the field and made some plays late, or made some plays in that game. So those are kind of guys that you'll be able to watch, and it's nice to have that kind of depth, up front defensively.
Definitely. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and switch over to the offensive side. From scrimmage number 2, the official statement from UAB did state that Trey Shropshire and Ryan Davis and Samario Rudolph each had a touchdown in the scrimmage. Trey Shropshire and Ryan Davis both had receiving touchdowns, whereas Rudolph had a rushing touchdown, which that's kind of interesting. I wonder what happened on that play for him to get the rushing touchdown. Maybe just like a flip, maybe like a sweep or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see some of that this year with with their slot receivers. I think because I think that's what they have out there, and that's one thing that I think Brian Vincent does a good job of with. When they have guys like that taking advantage of what they have. And I think when you have slot guys like Samario Rudolph and now Jermaine Brown,
right,
and Ryan Davis, and I mean, these are guys that you can do that kind of stuff with. I don't think there's a lot of things they can do with it just because of personnel. I think that's one thing that Brian Vincent does well. Finding, what their guys do best and kind of tailor some stuff around that. So I think, the rushing touchdown that UAB said they had from Samario Rudolph in the second scrimmage, I think I could see some of that. I can see,
right.
When you talk about him and Jermaine Brown and Ryan Davis, those are kind of guys that can do that type of thing. And I kind of go back to, I talk about it a lot, and because I think I still have nightmares about Zach Dobson, what Middle Tennessee did with him. I mean, it just, they used him in so many different ways. I don't know how many catches that cat had during the year, but they got the ball in his hands, and when they got the ball in his hands, special things happen.
Right.
And fortunately, Diggs was fast enough to trip him up on that one, or he would have had 2 long touchdowns in the championship game. But I think that not to say that Rudolph or Jermaine Brown or Ryan Davis have that kind of dynamic speed, even though they have really good speed. But they have the ability to kind of do that thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And then we're not going to see it on Saturday now.
No.
but I'm looking forward to seeing what they have in store for guys like that in in the fall.
Right, and I know our last episode we talked, or you talked a lot about how Ryan Davis, he's really impressed you, kind of
Oh
bulking
yeah.
up and just looking really good. Um, I'm excited about seeing, Rajay Johnson Sanders, seeing him
Hmm.
out there. Hopefully, make some plays, and see him out there, and just some other guys in the wide receiver group, because we've talked before that we definitely need this, group to step up, because you lose
Right.
Myron Mitchell, you lose Austin Watkins, yeah, but you got some other guys. You got Austin McGee, Perry Keys, AJ Davis. So I'm excited to see who's going to make some plays Saturday from the wide receiver group.
Yeah, and there's going to have to be guys do that. Not necessarily
Yeah.
Saturday, but moving forward. I mean, it's going to have to be. You don't replace Austin Watkins and
No.
Myron Mitchell. I mean, you just don't. I mean, you don't expect to plug in another Austin Watkins.
Right.
Even though Rob Shire was very special in the championship game, and but I mean, frankly, at this point, he's not Austin Watkins. I mean, as great as he was in the championship game, Austin Watkins is unique. I mean, Austin Watkins is, talent wise, is one of the best receivers to ever come through that program.
Right.
One of them certainly. And so you don't really. It's not about replacing that person. It's about finding that production. However, you have to find the production. And if that means you got to find three guys to fill that production, that's fine. I mean, that's what it's about, and finding different ways to get that production. I mean, there's certain things that Austin Watkins did that not everybody can do, and so you find guys. I mean, your challenge is to find the skill. You use the skills of the guys you have
Right.
to produce. And I think that you're going to see a lot of that with a guy like Ryan Davis, and again with the slot guys, and find a way that Rajon Johnson Sanders can meet his potential. Because
Right.
if you can do that, man, that's golden. So that's their challenge.
Yes, and another challenge is who's going to get the ball to them. And of course, we know Tyler Johnston can do it. I'm sure we'll get to see him hopefully on Saturday. But I'm excited to see Dylan Hopkins. I know you told us last episode, Steve, about how Dylan Hopkins really impressed you in that first scrimmage. I'm really excited to see him back out on the field. After a couple years. Because the last time we saw him on the field was back a couple seasons ago. So I'm excited to see his growth, how he looks. I'm also excited to see Bryson Lucero out there again, see how he looks. We still anticipated, or we don't anticipate, we know that this is still going to be, Tyler Johnston's team, but, you need that really capable backup guy that can help push, Tyler Johnston, and also to be there in case injuries happen. And unfortunately, we've seen where, Johnston has been bit by the injury bug. So hopefully we'll get to see some progression out of our other quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I mean, I've said this before too. I think the best thing that could happen for UAB's program is for Dylan Hopkins to have the best day out of all three up on Saturday, because that ensures that you're going to have a heck of a competition. I still expect, and I mean, this is Tyler Johnson, as you just said. It's Tyler Johnson's team. He's your starting quarterback. I don't think there's any doubt about it. But I would love to see Dylan Hopkins or Lucero, either one. I mean, just have one of those guys show up as you walk out of that stadium going, man, that cat might be the best cat we have, and that's kind of cool because that's where the competition comes from, and I do think that all three have shown this spring, from what I saw a little bit and then heard from some people, that all three have shown that shown a lot of ability in the spring. So I would love to, another thing, I'd love to walk out there Saturday saying, man, all three of those guys look good. That would be nice too. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I think especially with fans in the stands, It would be nice if you can find a way not to turn the ball over.
Please.
Even though it's your defense too. So
Right.
even though you love to see your defense making plays, but just sort of a peace of mind thing going into the off season, it sure would be nice to have no turnovers. And we'll see if that happens. I don't know if it
Right.
will. And I said it before. I said after that first scrimmage, a lot of times we make too much over turnovers in a scrimmage.
Yeah.
Because there's so many plays in a scrimmage. There's so many moving pieces. You might be throwing. You might have the whole first offense. Up front and the quarterback but you might have the fifth receiver in because the other guy got hot, or overheated for a minute or whatever, and so you just take a guy and you throw in Austin McGee for Austin Watkins,
Yeah.
and that changes things. That changes the dynamic. That changes. So we make a lot to do over that, and there's so many plays in the scrimmage. You're talking about 120 plays or more.
Right.
There's going to be a chance you're going to have more turnovers in a regular game. That's just the way it is. So, but in this case, it sure would be nice to come out, go home Saturday with no turnovers.
Definitely, but I've got a feeling we're going to see at least one. Just going off of the first two scrimmages, how they had a couple interception scrimmage too, and I believe the first one I think they had 5 interceptions. So
right.
something tells me we'll at least see one, but it would be great, like you said, for just a peace of mind for us fans to know that there weren't any turnovers. But really quickly,
they also had 5 touchdown passes in that scrimmage too. So let's not forget that. That.
Very quickly, Steve, on the tight ends, of course, we know what Hayden Pittman and Garrett Prince can do. But were you able to see anything from, Terrell McDonald or Michael York or Malik Bryant?
Yeah.
Out of what you saw?
I think all 3 of those guys are capable. Malik Bryant was the one that really was excited. Everybody was excited about coming out of at a junior college, junior college All-American, and,
right.
A guy that they really think is going to be good here. It's just, it's hard. It was hard for him to, get on the field last year. I think you'll see some stuff out of him. Terrell McDonald, I thought was solid last year. He's a guy that came in as a linebacker and, they moved him last year to tight end. And, I think you'll see some stuff out of him. I thought Michael York showed some flashes in that first scrimmage that I was watching where he, made a couple catches and, I thought it looked pretty good. So I think the depth there is really good, and it'll be fun to see those guys. I think you'll see more, those guys than you will, Prince and Pittman on Saturday.
Yeah.
You might not see Prince and Pittman on Saturday. It might be one of those where you see those other guys, just because there's nothing that Prince or Pittman, not that practice is important, scrimmages are important, but there's nothing they're going to do on Saturday that you haven't already seen from Prince and Pittman. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. There's nothing that they can do on Saturday that you hadn't go, okay, I've already seen them do that. Oh yeah, I knew they could do that. So, if they're banged up in any way, I don't expect to see, either of those guys.
Right. Now on the running back position, of course, we can't wait to see Dwayne McBride out there. We know what he can do, but it'll just be exciting to see him back out there again and see him as probably the number one guy.
Probably not. Take that probably away on that.
Definitely the number one guy.
Yeah. That cat's the number one guy now, and only because he's special now. Because I think there's some guys behind him that could be the number one guy. But Dwayne McBride is special. And so, I think, and now I know, Henley Brigham, the running back coach, and Coach Clark and Coach Vincent will probably,
they'll give you that coach speak. Yeah.
Tell me to shut up and, hey, this guy's got to compete. And he does. I mean, he still has to compete. But,
right.
Hey, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this one out now. That kid's special. And so, he's the number one guy, but there's some guys behind him, and I can't imagine if there's anybody that's a UAB fan that is not excited to see what Lee Witherspoon can do.
Right. Definitely.
Just his. You just look at what and it's high school, and he played at North Jackson, which is a solid program, but they play a 4A, and so it's not like they're playing Hoover and Thompson and those schools. But
Right.
what he did in his senior year, and it was only years of running back in high school, is freaky. I mean, 59 touchdowns, 12 callback. He could have counted for 71 touchdowns, which means, and they played into the second round, so they played 12 games. So you're talking about a cat that every time he played in a high school game as a senior, he every game he basically averaged 6 touchdowns a game. That's incredible, And so he's a speed guy. I don't know that. I think it's been a while that. And I couldn't tell you who the guy was that has this kind of home run potential, just
Right.
because of his speed, in the UAB backfield. I don't remember a guy that, they've had some great running backs that have come through there, but I can't remember the last one that you just flat said, this guy could take it to the house, with his speed and ability every time. So it's going to be fun to see that,
Yes.
and that's a guy. And hey, Whirling Pollock. I'm really excited to see him. Hopefully he's able to play. He's a guy who's hasn't really had a chance to show what he can do because he's been had some unfortunate injuries. Man, I'm looking forward to see. Hopefully he's healthy on Saturday and we can see what he could do. Because what Lucius Stanley's going to bring you.
Yeah.
What Dwayne McBride's going to bring. Not that you're still going to want to watch those guys play, but it's the guys you haven't really seen. Pollock and Witherspoon. And I tell you, there's a guy that I really like, and I don't know if I don't know that how much he's going to get the ball in his hands, but the Ty Smith Lindsay kid from Oxford, that's he's a redshirt sophomore.
Yeah.
He's listed at 5'7", 175, and he had one carry last year against I think it was Western Kentucky. Somebody at Legion
I think
Field.
so. Yeah.
One carry for 32 yards. That was the only carry of the year. And he looks a little bigger, looks a little more solid than he did last year. But I think he can play. Now I don't know that he'll ever get a chance. Not ever. With this backfield, I don't know that it'll get a chance. But if they have the unfortunate some injuries or because he was in line to maybe get some carries against Rice last year because he was one of them that had to do that. But I think that he's a guy that could help you a little bit if they get down to that. But I think that just shows how deep they are in the backfield and how good they are. That a guy like that who I think has shown ability on the practice field, might not get a chance this year because it's so good, above him.
Right. Now, last but not least, the offensive line. I think it is the best offensive line, best returning offensive line in Conference USA for sure. But anybody we need to look for other than the usual guys?
Well, I think the one thing I want to see, and I want to see the depth. I want to see what guys like, Chris Noble who can do. Who's a good sized guy, he's a redshirt sophomore, but he's good size, and see if he's ready to to help there. And then see some of the young guys. Zach Taylor, Trey Badowski, just some guys that are, that look like they have some pretty good size and they're young, and we probably won't see them on the field this year unless there's a crazy injury situation. Keegan Vaughn, a junior college kid. Those are the kind of guys that, it'd be kind of fun to watch. And it's also going to be fun to watch just that starting group, just to, and how good they look together already.
Right.
Those guys have played so many snaps together now, and they're so, there's some interchangeable parts there, and I don't know who's who I don't know if anybody will be out. But if they are, see kind of who fits in there. It's just, just watching those puzzle pieces a little bit with those guys, because there's, if if offensive line is kind of the only thing that a coach has to worry about with this group, then they're going to sleep really well at night because you're pretty secure about these guys now, and so it'll be fun to, just like I say, just watch some of the puzzle pieces, watch some of the the backup guys or guys that are trying to become backups, and just see how they perform. So it'll be it'll be fun to watch.
Definitely. And special teams, with spring games, you really don't get to see a whole lot, but we know what we have with Kyle Greenwell, Matt Quinn, Beaverstock. But it'll be good to see out there, see those guys out there kicking again. Hopefully we won't see them, or hopefully we won't see Greenwell kicking a whole lot, but it'll be good to see those guys out there.
Yeah, but yeah, they're not going to be a big part on Saturday just because that's just the way spring games are. But you feel really good about all those guys, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see the return game as much because you don't want to risk that. But I think we talked about it last time. I think there's some potentially really dynamic return guys, so it would be kind of nice to see that. But I don't expect it, and it was not going to happen. But come fall, that's going to be a strength.
Definitely. Well, all right, guys. Spring game this Saturday, 1 p.m. Hope to see all you guys out there at Legion Field one last time to cheer on our Blazers. Make sure to grab the rain poncho or rain jacket because rain is in the forecast right now. But we know in Alabama, things can change. Or hopefully we won't get any storms or anything. But definitely excited to be out there at the Old Gray Lady one more time. But guys, if you're not following us on Twitter, please give us a follow on Twitter at twitter.com/blazerpod. And also, if you're not subscribed to us on a platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure and hit that subscribe or follow button. And it helps us out a lot. But we'll be back after the spring game to give you guys a recap of what all happened in the spring game. So definitely look forward to that coming to your feed soon. But on that note, guys, you guys stay safe as always and go Blazers.